Welcome back to Stuff or Whatever a podcast. Welcome back to the channel. BQuanchi here. How you doing? How's it going today? Before we get started, I always like to say the best way to support me and the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow on YouTube, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and Twitch. I do game streams, game whatever on Twitch, which do get uploaded on the YouTube channel as VODs. There's other stuff I work on too, mostly like let's plays, checking out game demos and other like shorter form gameplays as well. So I enjoy and appreciate the feedback of what I should check out. A lot of stuff I kind of do in terms of the let's play style uploads is indie game demos, which I've been also doing a lot of shorts for in terms like a quick uh 30 seconds to a minute impressions video, just to see what works, what doesn't work, just to get shorts out there. And I also go to TikTok, which I don't really use too much besides just dumping what I put on shorts onto TikTok. But yeah, check that out. I appreciate it. So we got a very special podcast. Also some YouTube stuff. I'm not sure if it's interesting at all, but I've been kind of playing around looking at like tags or hashtags and titles, especially going to shorts and stuff. Because when I was doing some more uploads with game, I think it's kind of recent. Because sometimes I'll do like a quick game review if I didn't feel like doing a big video. Sometimes I'll just sum up a game in a minute, which I kind of like that format, just for me to like talk and share stuff. But I've been doing that with game demo impressions, and it feels like they haven't been performing as well. I think it just depends on the uh, game or title. I was also adding because it feels like when you like upload, YouTube suggests like if you add a tag and stuff like that. So I was like adding video games or indie games, but I feel like they didn't perform as much. It could have just been me. But when I was looking at other bigger channels, a lot of times they don't really use hashtags. I think maybe hashtag shorts is the one that gets used around a lot. I mentioned this before in an older podcast, but I feel like with maybe just like a lot of the social media in general, when it comes to using hashtags, if you use too much, it can be more of a hindrance than something that helps visibility. I feel like especially like when Instagram and Twitter were like really starting out and stuff like that, like we would have like 5 to 8 hashtags, but I know this kind of like talking to my ass or whatever, but it feels like a lot of those algorithms now kind of view those as like it's a spam or a bot or whatever. So if you're using so much excessive hashtags, you kind of feel like, oh, that's something just kind of like spam or whatever. So I feel like 2 to 3 is the magic number. So I think that might be the case. Also, I've been kind of noticing with my streams as well, 'cause I usually number them as well, and I squished them together. It always feels like it's like tagged like stream 204 or stream 210 or whatever. So I put a little space between the number sign. I know a lot of my formatting names are kind of on the simple but more straightforward side. So I'm not sure if that's really impacting performance and visibility. I just like being me and kind of like having that organization versus having a clickbaity title or whatever, especially since a lot of uploads are like stream VODs anyways. It just kind of doesn't make sense to me to kind of like uh change it around to make it seem like kooky or wacky or eye catching or whatever. But this is like YouTube stuff. I'm not sure who's listening cares too much about like putting content on YouTube. And when I think content, it's not really that much. It's just like mostly just me playing games while thinking out loud. Sometimes I feel like I don't have much of a personality or interesting. I think a lot of times it might just be more straightforward to focus on the game. Sometimes I try to correct jokes or make comments. I think just because there's no one in chat, as lame as it sounds, it's like hard to really riff off of anything. But I think it's kind of interesting to be more focused on the game and stuff like that. But yeah, just something I've been kind of thinking about too. And also, I put a recent tier maker video for Halloween candy, which is kind of recent, but check it out. Um, I feel like sometimes those get better numbers, just because it's like the whole tier maker trends. Although my little rant with tier maker is that I feel like the site it's really iffy when you try to add images. Like when you try to add a bunch at a time, it kind of gets them out of order. especially with I want to make a Pokemon one. And does like it's one of those things I don't like the tier makers that exist, even though some are pretty good, some I used before, but sometimes like the cropping of the images or the order of it, you kind of like want to rearrange things. So it's like you almost like have to upload one image at a time and you go back and redo it just to get the order just how you like it. Because it doesn't really give you a chance to like edit them. So maybe that's just a tier maker I use, but that's a little somewhat of a complaint about it. But some stuff I might be interesting to throw up on the channel. So next thing I want to talk about on this podcast is beard stuff or beard care, whatever you want to call it. So it'll be kind of like I had like a moment where I kind of did a lot of online shopping and buying this and that. Not going too overboard, but just trying different products like oil, a cream, a shampoo, and a brush and a comb that I got in a set. It got like my feedback of it. I don't get too crazy. I remember a long time ago I used to try that Dollar Beard Club or whatever, and I did like a video, like a results video was really lame and kind of cringy. It's off the channel. But I think I got some money from it just because I think with all these like memberships or subscriptions, you have your own link, and if someone uses it, you get something. Because I remember getting something from PayPal from Dollar Beard Club, so there was something with it in that video. But I guess like to give my 2 cents about all this beard care stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of products out there because I've seen like the crazy like waxes or like people really styled them like crazy. I just have like a typical. I've been growing my beard out, but um, sometimes it's kind of nice to like put stuff in it so it's not so itchy or scratchy or whatever. Um, but I don't know about oil. I think maybe it helps, but sometimes I feel like maybe my skin breaks out a little bit, or maybe I'm going too rough with the brush or something. I bought a lot of this. I bought in like sets of two, so I'm still gonna kind of using it and figuring out. Like I have a shampoo I have in my shower. It seems okay. I'm sure you can just use whatever shampoo or get like the 3-in-1 shampoos or whatever for like head, body, or whatever. Uh, so I don't know if a beard shampoo is as necessary, but I did buy um, 2 packs. are kind of like a little bit stocked up. I would have to say, kind of like the beard cream the most. I don't know, it's like some placebo effect or just like don't know much about anything. I feel like it kind of like feels better on the skin, or like it's more like a cream or lotion versus like an oil that it's kind of like greasy and all that. But you know, like having a brush and a comb, like I'll use the brush a little bit and like they have this like wooden comb that has like two different sides for like different um whatever you want to call them, the comby parts. So but also like I tried to grow my beard a little bit in terms of trimming it. Like I just been using scissors because I don't like having big sideburns where it kind of looks almost like a Wolverine kind of thing. So I kind of like try to trim it, eyeball it with like a pair of scissors and let the middle part kind of grow out. But then it feels like a little uneven or maybe too slim or weirdly shaped. So I don't know. I hear like people that have like barbers that specialize in beard trimming and stuff like that. I was want to do that, but it almost feels like a waste of money because like I could just do it myself. Like I don't need to spend money on it. Although I haven't spent money on a haircut for probably over a decade. No, less than that because there's been time I kind of grew up my hair and had it cut down, but I haven't had a haircut in over a year. And not that I really show myself on camera or anything, but I'm known to put a little selfie here and there on Instagram, all that. But I don't know. I think some of this beard stuff is overrated. I'm sure people who have like a really big, long beard, like it really makes a difference. I don't know, maybe the cream stuff or lotions or whatever are maybe worth it, but I don't know. I feel like the oil seems like maybe it's kind of working, but it just feels like more of an annoyance. But I don't know. I'm still using it because I paid for it, kind of thing. But I don't know if anyone's listening. Put comments below about like what beard products like. Try not to be too spammy, especially I know how YouTube can be with comments and stuff like that. But I think after I use all of my beard stuff, I made a little shopping spree on. I probably would just stick with continuing to use the beard cream or beard butter or whatever you want to call it. But kind of like that little beard talk for this week. And next thing I want to talk about is something kind of like fell into a hole in because I am a fan of anime and I pretty much watch all dubbed anime. I'm getting into One Piece and watching a lot of it. The live action series on Netflix I think it's good. I think it's okay. I think it's better than a lot of live action adaptations out there. But I've been watching a lot of the anime and all that. But watching, well, on Netflix, they have the dubbed anime. I think that's based off the Funimation. I think is going into that. I was going to talk about like how dubbed anime, especially was notorious with One Piece, the four kids dubbing of it. I don't. They didn't do too many arcs, like too many episodes. Like they did maybe like about 160 and something out of like 1,000 so far. I'm not sure if all episodes are dubbed yet, but I'm pretty sure most of the main ones are Funimation. I know they've been notorious for the censorship, like dialogue, but a lot of stuff like violence and drugs, and whether it be like drinking and smoking and stuff like that. But kind of what I want to talk about is dubbed anime actually bad? Because I feel like that's always like a topic of discussion when we talk about anime subbed or dub, and I think it's not bad. Like I would have to admit, especially the older as anime was getting bigger in America, like in the 90s. Even the One Piece for kids dubbing is notorious. Like, some of the voice acting is really bad. Like, I hate the for kids dubbing for Sanji, for Robin, Nico Robin, especially like Shanks too. It's like I don't know what kind of voice actors they get, and I think there's some with like Dragon Ball Z, maybe Naruto too. Because I heard some things that with the dubbing is that they get really lazy. I'm not sure how true this is, but they kind of like make up change up the dialogue so it matches the voice syncing, so they don't like reanimate the singing to match the new dubbed dialogue. They like do reverses, kind of make the dialogue fit with it. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of animes during that time had like catchphrases. I think like how like Naruto was like "believe it" or stuff like that, just because it was like tiny bits of filler to fill up the lip dubbing, lip sync, or whatever. I think it's come a long way. Especially like some more modern anime that has English dubbing, like I Hear Academia, Doctor Stone, even Dragon Ball Super, a lot more like more modern Dragon Ball stuff. I really can appreciate the voice acting. He has some big names in there too. I forget that has a big name, but I can't name a single one. Another guy who does like Vegeta and Piccolo, um, and all that. And oh God, who's the guy who does Jotaro and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Uh, God, it's Mike Mercer, I believe. But they've been a lot of good voice actors. I think, especially like how things have come along, American English dubbing. I think it's pretty good. I think, of course, you're gonna have your misses. You're gonna have the cheap voice actors, and sometimes like it almost feels kind of harsh to say like cheap or bad. But sometimes you can tell the difference between talent between different voice actors and stuff like that. Um, I forget the one. I feel like one of the older dub animes, Cowboy Bebop. I think that always had a good voice acting cast as well. But I think especially like some of the earlier like for kids dubbing, and I think that just contributes to the whole like dub animation's bad kind of thing. We really like there's probably more prevalence of bad examples or bad dubbing and all that. A lot of times in this day and age where everyone's like multitasking and stuff like that, sometimes I'd rather listen to the English translation than reading subtitles and all that. But going back to like One Piece, something that's like just hilarious was how bad the dubbing was and how they really changed things up to like censor or explain the censorship and stuff like that, especially with like violence and stuff. One channel was kind of like getting into, I want to uh mention it, Rant Nav Talks Anime, because they did a series like all the differences between the uh, One Piece, the for kids dubbing and all that and censorship. It's like funny thing going back to when voice acting in terms of uh how dubbing kind of explains like censorship, like they had like guns with quarks in it, and then I think it was like I was seeing with Shanks's crew, and one of his crewmembers shoots a guy in the back of the head, but they changed it to the gun has a cork gun, and it's like he just shot the cork gun and it just popped out. It's like a cork on a string, and the thing was that the loud sound shocked the guy and he fainted because of the loud cork popping. It's like, oh, check that guy, make sure he's okay after he wakes up from the loud sound. Like it startled him. Like it's so lame and bad. Like not just like the voice acting too, but there's also like some moments like going to Nami's past and how what happened to her mom or adopted mom that um it's Arlong. I think that's a villain, but like shoots her right in front of Nami. But then they changed it so he's actually just pointing at her and like you're locked in a dungeon for the rest of your life kind of thing. Which is even funnier because when they defeat Arlong years later, um, I'm not sure because I never watched the Funimation much. Um, but they like kind of retconned the dubbing to make it that Nami's mother's alive. She just locked up. And then they like don't acknowledge it, so it's like Nami just like not caring about rescuing her mom kind of thing, which is kind of there's like some plot points too. Like some of it's not has to do with dubbing, but they had like an episode where they totally cut out the Laboon because I think they didn't want like Luffy fighting an animal. Although the dubbing didn't get that far because I know Laboon make a big plot point with one of the future characters in the show, which is Funimation to get to, but for like the character Brooke and all that. And then it was a funny moment that's also like censored, where Nami like working for the fishermen, quote unquote, and she was gonna like stab Usopp to kind of like show her allegiance to them. What she does is that she stabs her hand to make it look like she stabbed him, and he kind of like fell in the water and kind of like uh, played it off to kind of like trick the freshman. But in the dubbing, she's like whispering to Usopp, like, "Hey, you got the rebel knife in your bag?" I go, "Let me see it." I go, "Make sure you grab the rebel one." And they like stab him and go, "Now fall in the water." So the thing is, she stabbed him with a rubber knife because they want to redub that so she's not like stabbing her hand and all that. And I think this like extra dialogue is really corny. I think also part of that too with the hatred with dub animes, like when they really change major plot points or like big moments of the show to be really lame like that with like the rubber knight or the cork gun and stuff like that. So I think it's just like overall directions of the translation of the localization of the anime versus just the dubbing. But my, I don't know, again, I have my bias of uh, always pretty much if there's a dub available, I'll watch it. There hasn't been too many that are like so god awful, I won't. But I can watch sub if that's like the only format, or if it hasn't been dubbed yet. So I always kind of find it weird, like there's always that like arguments, like two different sides, almost like a war when it comes to anime, like dub versus sub. But dub, not so bad in my opinion. But you can let me know in the comments below how wrong or how right or how much you don't care. But yeah, I again especially looking at some more recent examples of dubbed anime. I think it's come a long way, and a lot voice acting in other animated like movies or TV shows or video games, whatever you want to call it. I think the quality of voice acting typically goes, especially with like bigger properties and bigger franchises with anime, whether it be like Dragon Ball Z or I hear Academia stuff like that, or One Piece. So yeah, it's definitely gone a long way, and I think dubbing is still, I think it's good. Okay, and next I want to talk a little bit more about X, Twitter, whatever we want to call it. Because it seems to be a thing in every week, almost every other day, to talk or rant about Twitter. This is like one of the more recent, like, I guess, features or options, whatever you want to call it. But now they have a way that you can edit your posts to only have verified accounts respond to them. Like, if you're not verified, they can't respond to it, which is kind of good, kind of, because I can get the point that can definitely help limit bots or spam or stuff like that too. I know like that's something Elon has always been fighting for, I guess. I don't know what the hell he's doing with the platform. But also speaking of bots, like I mentioned maybe 2 weeks ago or three about these hand accounts that like randomly like my tweets and then they're like whatever campsites. I've been seeing new handles pop up again. Um, but yeah, they always like a reply and they never like respond or engage. But going back, like it's a feature and I can get it. Like especially when you post something, you get like a bunch of annoying stuff and all that. But also part of it is that it will limit engagement. So especially those accounts that have are verified and get money off advertising versus based on engagement and stuff like that is like it almost feels like a hindrance. Like why would you want to flip that switch or flip the option on if it's going to limit engagement, all that, especially like earning revenue. I guess if you have like a more serious post or maybe certain creators and all that, but then again, you have to be verified or have X premiums. You had to pay for it and all that. So I can see that it's not the worst, but it's also I even saw a joke like, can you make the opposite of that so you can prevent verified users from commenting? That'd be fun. Because I always like sometimes I almost consider X Premium just because it helps with visibility. I think it still has an edit option because sometimes I make like a typo and didn't realize till seconds afterwards, and like the edit option is kind of nice. I thought that was going to eventually get rolled out to all users, but I don't know. But again, it's like, oh, now I'm visible to people who pay for Twitter or pay for X or whatever. So it's like maybe I don't want. Sometimes we see like posts replies to Elon or whatever accounts. Like maybe I'm really glad that these very accounts don't um, engage with me that much. So maybe it's kind of good I don't have the visibility. Who knows? But yeah, it always kind of feels weird. Like people like I don't know that the one to praise every single thing word that Elon says, like some parasocial kind of weird relationship. Like, oh, if I support whatever he says, he might like me, and he might because he's a billionaire, he might give me money or buy me a Tesla or all that. So I don't know why people try hard so much to suck up to these celebrities or rich people, whatever, and all that. So yeah, and then also kind of reminds me. I don't think we had any updates of it, but I feel like was it 1 month or 2 months ago when it came about like they were going to get rid of blocking, but we still have blocking on Twitter. Um, so have you ever seen some things that it was like, oh, like for like guidelines with app stores, whether it be like Google Play or Apple, that they have to have a blocking option for social media apps. To me, that's why kind of like they stopped talking about it. But also they were kind of like talking up like muting somebody would be more amped up. And it's not like muting would be the new blocks, but it was the point. But I thought that was kind of funny. Do you still kind of think about like, hey, when are they going to get rid of blocking? Which you probably aren't, but who knows? I know like some stupid post Elon made about like changing the format, like to make it more simple, like not show likes or whatever. Like you have to like swipe one direction to respond or double tap to like or something, which I guess makes somewhat sense to smartphones, but a lot of people use it on the computers. It just seems like not necessary. Um, but I don't know. I don't think Twitter's ever X is ever gonna die. It is it's so bizarre when you have like these moments like you can't think of anything like to make it worse than yep he does or and all the replies like praise him. But again, the only thing I really give credit to with the whole like option to have only verified accounts reply is that I can see it helps limit posts or spams or whatever. But then again, there's still going to be people who pay for premium and they're going to like, hey, made a post about what's going on in the Middle East, and someone makes a post like, hey, check out my Spotify or check out my SoundCloud and stuff like that. So it's still going to happen, but it's probably going to be more real people than bots or whatever. But my 2 cents about that. Another thing I want to talk about, I kind of read this on Reddit, and it was a channel I used to. God, it's been almost a year now, but the Game Grumps channel and all that. But basically, kind of want to get a little rant about what I heard about the live shows, and I guess just going to someone on Reddit is that the live shows are like extremely scripted, which seems kind of lame. I'm not sure if that's always been the case. Like I felt like they've been doing tours before, like even before COVID and stuff like that, and it'd be like live let's plays and stuff like that, and get audience involved. But I guess hearing that some of the gameplay is like pre-recorded and like they're pretending to play the game and all that. Like I think they were like beating quote unquote beating Battle Kid, but it's just like pre-recorded and all that. And I don't know, it just seems very lame. And I even remember like one time they were gonna have a show closer to me, and I was very tempted, but like, nah. But it just almost feels cringe to go to a live show for a Let's Play channel and all that. So just kind of, I don't know if it's like a bad idea or worth it. I'm sure people have their fun and enjoyment. Although, one funny thing I also seem to be a common thing on Reddit is that the smell of the crowd, like a lot of like BO and stuff like that too. So it's like, ugh. Like I'm not the most social person. I don't really go out that often, but it's like, if that's not experience I want to go out for. So it's like, and I don't know. I'm not sure if that's still as big of a thing with like YouTubers or content creators, influencers doing live shows and tours and stuff like that. Unless it's like something more engaging or more like, hey, they do music, so doing a music tour kind of thing. That makes a little bit more sense. Or if they're like going to convention and they're going to do a show and stuff like that. Like I haven't heard much of it. Just heard they're having it with like Gerald the Completionist and Jim Caddy Catacaris. So I wonder how good that was. 'Cause I feel like that's more of a, like a hey, this is our format versus like hey, we're a Let's Play channel, and even though our audience knows us for a Let's Play, we're gonna be scripted and funny. I don't know, like we tend to play video games. Maybe some parts they actually did because I heard there was like some audience engagement and stuff like that too. But it feels really, really lame. It almost feels like it's a so cringy to like buy a ticket to a Let's Play show tour that's touring, especially like Game Grumps. I don't know, maybe that's being a little bit harsh. But again, I don't really care for the channel too much. I'm not sure if other people have comments, good or bad. Especially since I'm reading this off Rant Grumps anyway, so it's like, hey, it's kind of a biased uh, opinion in the first place. But I always thought that funny and like, why? 'Cause I wonder if that's gonna like die down. Because I know Aaron Game Grumps has like the real good touring company, so I wonder how that's doing. But again, it's also kind of this weird parasocial relationship with their audience. Like, oh, if we buy tickets to the show, then we're like friends with them. We get to see our friends doing in our city, or especially I think it's really lame. Again, this may be harsh, but if people who like make big plans, like, okay, they're touring here, but I have to take time off work, I have to pay to rent the car, or maybe I had to pay for a hotel room or an Airbnb. So I always feel sorry for someone who's like maybe spending money, using time off on work just to go to a Let's Play live show where they are heavily scripted and they don't even play the games. They just pretend to play the game. So that seems very lame to me. But again, I just read this from here and there from Reddit, so I'm not sure how viable that is, but I just thought it was funny to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about, just like a little rant, but some with smartphones, like I'm an Android user. I know people do like iPhone, Android, whatever. It just works for me. And now that, and use a non-contract phone. It's a little bit on the cheaper side, but hey, not too many complaints, anyways. But it's like a Samsung, but not like the premium Samsung Galaxy and all that. But noticing the past couple of updates, like when I have a system update, all of a sudden I have a few games on my phone, like Gardenscapes or like a slot one or um, one with a king or something like a bunch of like those puzzle match style games and all that. So I like, oh, uninstall them. I happened like twice in a row, and I was like, that's weird. So I like Googled it. I guess that's a thing. So it just seems very annoying that like it automatically installs games when doing system updates. I'm not sure like if that's something you can legally do. I believe whenever you do a system update, it has to be connected to Wi-Fi, so it's not like it's wasting data to download these extra games. So I guess that's that. I may be wrong on that, but I wish you can turn it off. It's like super annoying when you have to like uninstall these games or because but I even noticed like when I noticed it when the installation or the software update was complete, it's like, oh, these four games were installed to your phone. It's like, what? I did not want those games and all that. So I don't know if anyone would have more knowledge or just noticed this or did not notice that, or is that something other phones do, like Apple or maybe non-Samsung Android phones? I'm kind of curious, but it just seems kind of weird. Um, I tried to think if I saw read like a good reason. Like I think it's based off the service of the carrier, so it's more of the carrier than Samsung. I don't know. It just kind of like something weird I noticed, and it's like I don't know, maybe someone listening can like, oh, I noticed that too, and then that's weird. Um, Hopefully it's just games. It'd be not so cool if it was like stuff that was like data mining or whatever. I don't know too much about technology. I do enjoy it and all that, but I always thought that was kind of weird to install a game they just uninstall afterwards. Or what's the whole reason? Like, did they get money off that or anything like that for each install? It seemed kind of weird to me. And the last thing I want to talk about this podcast is blood donations. And this is kind of like maybe this is news or maybe an update. Because I know there was like a lot of times, sadly, I get a lot of my news from the Philip DeFranco show. I think a few weeks ago, like talking about blood shortages and like how like hospitals need more blood donations, and you hear like blood drives and all that. But I even looked into it because I haven't given blood. Like I don't want to age myself too much, but since I was in high school, and since then, on this journey of life and self discovery, being a gay man, and that's been a big thing with blood donations. It's like it's almost like if you're gay, um, they won't accept your blood. And I'm not gonna be like it's a touchy thing to talk about at times, but I'm not gonna be ignorant and say like I think a lot of it's based off HIV. And I know like some people frame it as like a gay disease, which it's not. It can affect everyone, but I wouldn't be naive. I wouldn't deny the fact that you see more prevalence of that with gay men, especially years ago. I feel like there's a lot of advances, especially with like PrEP and medications and being on treatment to be on undetectable. That's a whole another discussion. But I would say like, hey, there is a prevalence and that is something extremely important when it comes to donating blood that's going to be transfused to another individual. But they should always be checking that, like, it's not a gay disease. Straight people can have it through straight sex. A lot of times from sharing drug needles like heroin and stuff like that. And that's a way a lot of people can get infected with it. And a lot of times, I'm trying to think if they still like go off this, but say like one of the relevant reason why it gets spread is that the person who's carrying it doesn't know that they're positive. I think this with the history of gay men, especially like AIDS epidemic and stuff like that, or pandemic, whatever you want to call it, that is so much knowledge or discussion. There's still stigmas about it too, or probably even more so years ago. But it's like always have that importance of always checking your status, using protection, or having those discussions and stuff like that. It's kind of like, hey, we are aware that this disease is out there versus somebody who may take drugs or just have a lot of unprotected sex just because, whether it be straight man or male woman, black or white, whatever. So I think that's always like bothered me too when it came to blood donations. Like I think the question is if you're a man who had sex with another man. I think with a few years, I forgot the time frame, but it's like a fancy way of saying, hey, if you're gay, we don't want your blood. But I guess that they changed that. I even looked it up. I think it was in May and it like being more enforced August of this year. It's like, wow, that's really recent. And I don't know, I think others should look into it because it's a shame. Like if people have like blood types that are more universally accepted or more crucial and needed in terms of what hospital needs for blood transfusion, all that. It's kind of like a wasted resource when it's like, oh, your blood's perfectly good, but we don't want it because of who you have sex with it, who you take to bed. So, again, I know there's certain diseases, but that can be transfused in the blood. They're always a huge concern. Um, but they should always be checking that because those diseases don't discriminate. You may see more prevalence in different demographics and all that, but it's still important to check. I kind of mentioned that too because I kind of felt like for the longest time I always had that mentality like, well, it's a shame I won't donate blood because they won't accept it, like because of who I am and who I love. Like, why bother? And I think just maybe nowadays, like people don't know the changes, or it still kind of sticks with them. Like, if my blood isn't good enough for who I am, why should I bother to give it? So I'll maybe look into it. I don't know if this is be like a little way to bring awareness for my small little channel for being nobody on the internet, but I guess gay blood is acceptable, but I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of hateful, and bigoted people who don't even want gay blood. But if it's an important resource that can be utilized, especially what's going on in the world. I think it's a good thing, but I feel like so much damage has been done with these homophobic, discriminatory practices when it comes to being able to donate blood or whatever. But yeah, let me know in the comments too if anyone's listening this far. Like, I think that's an important discussion to still have, or at least if people who are unaware to be more informed. And who knows, maybe there'll be less shortages, but that was a few weeks back, so I'm not sure if more going on. But yeah, that's my podcast for this week. So thanks so much for listening. Let me know in the comments below. You know, what if I talked about if it rang a bell, add your 2 cents to it. We can add it to the change jar. But yeah, follow me on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, whatever. And yeah, I got stuff planned for Halloween in terms of certain games I'm going to be playing. But that'll do it for tonight. So y'all take care and have a good rest of your day. Bye.